Good morning if you're in Africa. Good evening if you're from the other parts of the world. Today I'm talking about a very sensitive subject. Today I'm waking up with a very heavy heart. I'm waking up with a very heavy heart because of what has transpired in Venezuela. The events that are unfolding in Venezuela have to be concerning for every person who loves peace. I believe every citizen of this world who loves peace must be concerned by the actions of the United States of America under the leadership and tutelage of that lunatic called Donald Trump. It cannot be business as usual that the United States of America is allowed to continue invading and destabilizing sovereign states. The United States of America has been doing this for the longest of time. For the longest of time, the USA has been acting with impunity, showing no regard for any international laws, showing no regard for multilateral institutions or platforms like the United Nations. The United States of America has appointed itself as a police policing other sovereign states and interfering in their affairs. And multilateral institutions like your United Nations have been left helpless in that situation. Because make it sense to me that why would a single country like the United States of America take it upon themselves to decide on who should or should not be presidents of other countries? Skincare Lexi, hi, welcome to the platform. Anyway, guys, my name is Devos Kosana. This is my platform. The name of the platform is Izwi Labansundu, the voice for Africans. So I want you guys to answer this question for me. What do you think are the United States of America's motives behind this invasion of a sovereign state? Here I'm talking about Venezuela. Who gave the United States of America the powers to be the demigods who can decide to go to sovereign countries, destabilize those countries, and even worse, kidnap citizens? Because what the United States of America has done here in the case of President Nicolas Maduro. It is a classic case of kidnapping, abducting. There's no arrest. That is utter rubbish that the Donald Trump administration has arrested Nicolas Maduro. No, they've not arrested him. They abducted him. Because for them to arrest him, they're arresting him as what? Who and what gives the United States of America the authority to go into a sovereign state and arrest the president of that country? Because we know this. Each and every country on this planet, which at some point had the has been unfortunate to be invaded by the United States of America. Those countries have never known peace since then. We can date it back here in Africa. We've got the Congolese problem. We've got the problem of Congo. And we know that the United States of America played a leading role in the capturing and the killing of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo. We can go to Libya. Since the day when Barack Obama, who at the time was the leader of the United States of America, when the USA invaded Libya and eventually they killed Muammar Gaddafi. Look at Libya right now. Let us have an objective analysis and objective discussion that is not influenced and sponsored by the American-owned media. Okay? By the American media. Ultimately, Lumumba was betrayed by his own people first. That is always the case. That's how the United States operates. They find within those countries, they find these malcontents, surrogates that they work with. It's the same thing with Maduro and even in Libya and others. Because go to the case of Venezuela. There's these leaders of the opposition in Venezuela. Whenever they lose the elections in Venezuela, they run to international media, including the United States of America, and say these things about the incumbent. So of course, even now with the capturing of Maduro, the United States of America found assistance from people within, right? From people within Venezuela, okay? So what you have, so it's the same thing that happened in Congo. Lumumba was betrayed by his people first, but those people were doing that on behalf of the United States of America, Belgium, and others. It hardly happens where you'll have a situation that the United States of America will go to this sovereign state and carry out their operations without assistance from this malcontents. Okay? So that is the situation. That is the situation. So what happened in Congo is not different to what is currently happening in Venezuela. Okay? Because it is through the assistance of internal forces The USA always finds surrogates within these countries. Okay? They always find surrogates, fund those people and all of that. Even in South Africa, your Cape Independence and all of that. This also brings us the question that we as South Africans must always be aware that since the return of Donald Trump into the presidency of the USA, besides Venezuela, South Africa is one of the countries that has been at war with. So this must also tell us one thing, that even we ourselves, we are not safe. Okay? So the point I'm getting at here is also that all these countries that the USA has disrupted, invaded in the name of the so-called democracy, post that those invasions and the killing and capturing of those leaders of those particular countries, those countries have never known any peace and stability. I'm making the case of Libya. They killed Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. So it's been how many years now? 14 to 15 years now. Libya has deteriorated. Libya is in a far worse state than it was. And another trend, it is that these bloodthirsty USA administrations, because it must be clear, this thing did not start with Donald Trump. I stated back from the Congo when they killed Lumumba. They are targeting countries that are rich in terms of mineral resources. Because what is clear, and it's the fact that is known, is that the United States of America is not blessed with mineral resources. But for some reason, they've built the biggest, if not one of the biggest industries, using mineral resources from other countries. So they need those mineral resources. .com 4414 saying hi, welcome to the platform. Thank you for joining me in. We see, why would we let our enemy win? Well, that's the thing about us. Even within families, you'll always have people who, out of jealousy or other nefarious agendas, will always work with external forces to destabilize and destroy what you are trying to build as a family, society, community, and ultimately as a country. And remember, these people, these surrogates that the USA uses in its quest for invasion of other countries, they promise them the riches. They promise them the world. It's in human nature that you'll always find people who are readily available and willing to sell their people, to sell their souls for the purposes of self-enrichment. That's what we are confronted with. So the USA knows that in all these countries, they'll always find, especially those in the opposition, and they fund those people. So those people within their countries, they then begin to pursue the interests of external forces. And in this case, it is the United States of America. So I was making a point that the USA always targets countries that are rich in mineral resources. So you say Venezuela assisted our enemies and you expect us to do nothing. Well, I'm not sure if I get your point. When you say Venezuela assisted our enemies and you expect us to do nothing. When you say expect us to do nothing, who are you referring to in this case? Because I'm making a point here that you've got a USA that goes into countries, finds surrogates in those countries, and they fund those surrogates so those surrogates can assist the USA in destabilizing those countries. And then, remember, in the moment of chaos and all of that, that's where the USA, the imperialist forces are able to loot the mineral resources within those countries. That is what drives these invasions by the USA. Terrace Caron, say hi. Hi, and thank you for joining this live. So that is always the case. Look at all the betrayals, even in terms of Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. There's always people within our countries who are readily available to be used by the imperialist forces. Because you must ask yourself the question, all the claims, the nonsensical claims that the USA is making and leveling at Nicolas Maduro and his administration out in Venezuela. Ask yourself the question, is the Maduro administration the worst administration in the world? If not, then why has the USA not invaded and interfered in those other countries? It is because those other countries are not endowed with the same amount of mineral resources that Congo has, Venezuela has, Libya has, even with Iraq. You see, Lester Lamas say it's lunacy. It is definitely lunacy. And I don't understand as to how has the world allowed this to happen unchallenged. You see, I don't understand how the world has allowed this to happen unchallenged. But what this also exposes, it is what many of us have been saying about this multilateral platforms such as the United Nations, that in actual fact, these things are nothing but just talk shops. They are useless. They lack the teeth to bite. They can make any resolutions that they make, but they lack the powers. They lack the powers to enforce. Kent Menk 5160% Chevron was already in Venezuela, even as far back as 2019. Here's the thing. In 2019, between February and March, I spent time in Venezuela, right? I spent time in Venezuela. I was hosted by Nicolas Maduro and his administration. I attended 2 events. We're from different parts of the world. We firstly attended the Che Guevara Internationalist Brigade, which was hosted in Venezuela, and then we attended the International People's Assembly. And when we were there, I remember on one Saturday, there were already attempts by the USA to try and invade Venezuela. You see, so Trump has always had it in them. Remember the time, it was at that term. Then 2020, of course, he lost the elections. Now he comes back. Which is the first country he invades? He invades Venezuela. You see, so he said Nigeria will be next. They've already started, and remember again. Do you see the pattern here, guys? Do you see the pattern that's developing? All these countries are countries that are endowed with mineral resources that the United States of America needs to power or to fuel its industries and economy. So it means that the United States of America is not prepared to come to the table and negotiate the trade deals with these countries that are endowed with the mineral resources. You see? So they rather use the military invasion so they can be able to loot those resources. That is what is at the core of what we are dealing with here. You see? So you say, yes, they are strategic and valuable countries that we do not want to see assist our enemies. You see? So that's why I'm asking the question that who preordained the United States of America to be the superpower that policies other countries? Look at what is happening in the Middle East, the Gaza and all of that. The reason that Israel is acting with impunity, murdering millions and millions of Palestinians, it is because the Israel has the USA's backing. It is the USA that is enabling the Israel to continue occupying the Palestinian land and murdering, committing genocide against the people of Palestine. And you must also understand that the USA also owns these media platforms. So they are able to propagate this propaganda that the reason they're invading this country and all of that. With Iraq, they spoke about that there's no democracy, there's a dictator there, something that they used in Libya. Same thing now they are using in Venezuela. Look at what they're doing to Nigeria. They're saying they're intervening there on behalf of Christians and all of that. So they use their mainstream media, and of course they've also now infiltrated the social media space to advance this propaganda so that when they eventually invade those countries, then they don't have to face the backlash, because they've already planted this idea in people's minds that these targeted countries lack democracy, there's human rights violations and all of that. That is just done to prepare the ground for the eventual invasion. Then it can be seen as justifiable why they are doing that. That is the reason behind it. This then brings me to our own country, South Africa. For over a year, the USA has been working with racist Afrikaners who in this day and age still believe that the natives of this land, the Africans, are subhuman. Therefore, any attempts by the democratically elected government to implement policies that seek to redress the injustice of the past, the colonialism through its different formations like apartheid, then they characterize such moves as human rights violations. I said it last year that these people, by so doing, they are merely creating a fertile grounds for the United States of America to do what? To invade South Africa in the name of protecting human rights. Okay? Peter says, hope Kani gets arrested too. Here's the thing. And it goes back to the question that I asked. Why do we have the United Nations if we're still going to have countries like USA acting with impunity? Real time says Europeans have been the leading power on this earth for Exactly. And they refuse. And here's the thing. Because Europe is not blessed. And when I'm saying Europe, I include the USA. Because let's be honest, United States of America, ideologically and everything else, is part of Europe. Don't be misled by the geographical location. But everything else claps USA together with Europe. So because they are not blessed with the same mineral resources that we have, that is the reason they colonize Africa, Latin America and others. Because Africa, Latin America and others in Asia are blessed with these mineral resources. So after they realized that colonialism in its crude form was no longer viable or easy to maintain, then they moved to neocolonialism. Okay, they moved to neocolonialism. So when they realized that also that they are unable in some of these countries to install their own puppets. Because listen to what Trump says they are going to run Venezuela from Washington. I mean, come on, guys. Like, honestly, what are we doing here? The arrogance to even say that you're going to run another country from your own headquarters. So the intention with Venezuela is to install a puppet government that is going to give access, that's going to give the USA access to the mineral resources, which is oil and others. The gold reserves, the Venezuela's gold reserves that are held up in USA, go and check that. You see, that is the case. So now the next target, it is South Africa. So exactly, we are not obsessed, we are not blessed with those resources, yet we have been the world power for 300 years and no one can stop us. Well, it is because the reason that is not happening is because Africa, Latin America, and Asia and others have allowed themselves to be divided by these very same European powers. Even with the African continent, I made mention of Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, and all of that. They always find people within those countries and continents who can be surrogates of the imperialist forces. You see. So that's where we are finding ourselves right now as the world. And all that we are seeing, it is countries issuing statements. Like, what will statements do? Because what the USA has done is to declare a war. It's something that needs direct confrontation to stop the USA. Because you might be seated here thinking it's Venezuela. The question will be, who's next? And what this also does, that it creates a precedence. It creates a precedence that anyone can wake up one morning and decide to invade another country. Will then by then now want to intervene and say, no, don't do it. But you've allowed USA to do the same. You should talk about drug cartels screwing their own people. You see, again, we're talking about drug cartels. The story of drug cartels. Who has facts on that? Or are we again going to be relying solely on the propaganda by the United States media? You're saying, are you Zimbabwean? I'm not Zimbabwean. I'm South African. Ngumusi kamhlanga mina. Ngim Africa bro. And again, if I was Zimbabwean, there's nothing wrong. We are Africans. Okay? You see? So that's what now. What is needed? It is countries and the people who love peace. Who love peace. To come together and begin to have a concrete action plan a concrete action plan, right? To counter what the imperialist forces are doing. You're saying you must know the days of blaming Europeans for everything are over. Of course, we will blame Europeans. The world is in the mess that is because of Europeans, and the Europeans have co-opted Africans and other leaders and leaders from other continents to this nonsense. Okay? That is the fact. So we'll keep on pointing to the fact that the world is in a mess that is because of Europeans and have co-opted Africans, Latin Americans, Asians, and others into this nonsense. Okay, so thank you guys. We are 30 minutes into this live stream, so thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Debus Kosana. The name of the platform is Izulabantundu, the voice for Africans. Please subscribe to the platform. There's different ways of supporting the platform. You can subscribe, take up the membership, buy me the super thanks and all of that. See, you can say it loud, my brothers. Yes, definitely. We have to say it without fear or favor. Thank you, Richard. Europeans and the West is to blame. Definitely. It is to blame. And the history has to be known by that. So Africa is to blame. Africa is to blame, but for how much did Africa invade itself? Did Africa colonize itself? Please, guys. Few individuals, African leaders who have allowed themselves to be co-opted by Europeans do not constitute the whole of Africa. You see? So thank you guys for tuning in. You can continue the let's continue the conversations on the comments, guys. Thank you guys.